Hello, everyone. Another Wednesday, another 11 a.m. somewhere in the world. Um, we have some cool stuff today, and it's actually a lot coming from the workshop I did at my gym last week. It's about tight hips and what mobility really is, and all the kind of shenanigans, and how to actually tackle whatever your hips feel like at the moment. So let's get started.
Hi everyone. So you basically already mentioned the question. The question is, what would you tell someone who has the issue of a SIP or of a tight hip?
Mhm. All right. So first things first. I think it's um, for us in training for solving practical problems, it's more important to know what to do rather than to talk about what it is that's a problem. I'd rather have you know concrete steps to take rather than being able to define what mobility or strength or whatever the issue is. I just want to make it better in practice. So the cool thing is I got to test some stuff in real life, which is my gym, as always. Last Friday, we had about 10 people in I call it the hip mobility workshop, whatever, doesn't matter the name. What I wanted to see is literally where we're at the gym right now. Because 3 years ago, we tackled the how to hinge, how to swivel at the hips, how to keep a neutral hip. And I was pleasantly surprised that everyone in there knew what to do. All right. But there's other things that popped up. So we'll talk about this. So what mobility really is for me, mobility is the same for me as strength. There's no differentiation in application. There can be a lot of theoretical discussions about it. What's the actual difference? I want to know which position I want to be in, which tension I have to create, what rotation happens when I do both of those things. And at the end, there's something coming out of it which will help you, whatever the name is, whether it's torque, mobility, strength, I don't care. You moving more weight. I'm more interested in the left side of the equation, which is position tension and what rotation will need. So for the hips, it's super simple. We did three exercises. We started with the glutes as one of the three big muscles that we want to tackle. We started with the neutral hip position, neutral pelvis position, which is the only thing that you should practice in training. Um, we took three exercises, took the glutes. I was like, okay, we need to train three jobs. First job is absorbing tension. The second one is producing tension. The third one is stabilizing tension. So we started with after a couple of intro words. We started with a carry. We did a front drag sandbag carry because it just helps so much loading that thing from top down. It is really hard to kind of put your hips somewhere else in a neutral position while being loaded from the top. So we started with this. I observed people and I told them, okay, this is what your glutes should feel like when they're stabilizing. That means no change in muscle length, so to speak, right? So the muscle's not getting longer, muscle's not getting shorter. It's basically maintaining the same length at all times, more or less. The second one we did was the sandbag box squat to teach your hips how to move back and absorb tension. So the glutes are technically lengthening, absorbing tension. That's all we did there. And then we did the chains and rope pull to do the opposite to learn how to produce tension. The cool thing is, um, you will. I love stuff where you realize that it is a problem for you. Because when you do those three exercises, one of them you will realize that you suck at one of them at least, or two, or sometimes three, which is totally fine. So I don't have to explain to you, okay, this is what you have to do. It's like, okay, I have an easy time doing a chains and rope pull. I'm working towards my numbers that I want to achieve. Like I just have to do more now, which volume is super simple. You just show up more often and just do it more often. That's the easy part. The hard part is, which is not the case for most people at our gym with the sandbag box squats, is okay, they have a hard time getting the neutral hips there, getting the neutral pelvis there, staying in the wide stance, and all the good stuff. So that's what we're focusing on. then that's what I told people at the workshop. It's like, okay, this is not about feeling good about yourself that you can hinge, you can do A, B, C, D. This is about figuring out what do I have to do to get better at the game of chain. Let's take one very specific example. So I had one lady, because we had different quote unquote mobility issues. We had tight hip flexors, we had tight hamstrings, we had I cannot lock out my hips when I do deadlifts, for example. So these are very different topics, so to speak, but it always has the same solution. It's an imbalance between the three muscle jobs. That means there's a lack of either producing, stabilizing, or absorbing tension. And one of the ladies had a very, very smart question. She was like, okay, I get what you're telling me. So that means I just have to do more of the chains or rope pulls because I have to learn how to produce with the glutes because that's what I'm missing when trying to extend my hips in the deadlift. I was like, yes and no, because I saw your Sandbag box squat and you had a really, really hard time lowering yourself and putting the brakes on, using your glutes to absorb tension. I was like, what if we just start doing this more, like way more? We talked about how to find balance. Balance is not 50-50, or if you do 3 exercises, 33.3%. This is bullshit. Yes, at the end, it should sum up to 100%, but you're not starting from 50-50. You're basically starting from whatever it is. The lady, in the example of the lady, she was like 90% competent at producing tension with the chains rope pull, and like 10% on the Sandbag box squat. So we have to put way more emphasis on the Sandbag box squat, meaning that's the only thing you should be doing. And then you're going to retest it in your deadlift and see if it works. So I think we have to consider 3 things at the same time and not have that isolated view on one thing, because that's very typical in the world of training. It's like, this is the one thing you need to do and it mimics your problem, extending your hips. So you're just going to do more of extending your hips, but that's not how the body works. You can do this, but this is going to create more issues somewhere else. You have to do all 3 at the same time and overvalue the one that you're you're having a hard time doing. In her case, the Sandbag box squat. So that was it was cool. It was really great to see, and now we can implement the box squat or variations of it. Whether that's a sumo deadlift, it's the same thing. Whether that's an Anderson squat, it's the same principle behind it about the hips. Now we have to do this more in our normal class gym programming, and we'll see what this will take us in 6, 12, or 18 months.
Could you touch on some other observations you made from all the participants of the mobility workshop? What were kind of like the main issues people had when it comes to these 3 exercises?
Mm-hmm. For example, I had a guy who thought he had a problem with hinging and tight hamstrings. Mm-hmm. And we did some hinging work and it was perfect. Like there's no flexing, extending of the lower back. He knew what to do, muscles were working, but he was literally unable to move a certain amount of weight in the Sandbag box squat. Same principle. Because we put a lot of emphasis in training or people understanding how to hinge. And the only thing I'm interested in is, okay, how can I show him how to unfocus on tight hamstrings and focus on, okay, what do I have to do in a Sandbag box squat to teach my hamstring something else that I'm already doing? This is not a movement pattern issue. It's a muscle job issue where literally your muscle has no clue what to do. And that's fine. That's something we can learn. That's cool. Like that's in our hands now. That's what we need the bone rules, right? So we need certain strict rules so we can play within them. And it's not about exercises anymore. I choose the Sandbag box squat to teach this, but I guess there's 20 other exercises where you can achieve the same thing. So the cool thing is now he can measure, okay, does my hamstring feel less tight? How's my how's my hinge improving when I do sandbag box squats. This sounds so counterintuitive, because working on something that means I want to improve my hinge, but I'll do something else to get better at it is I actually have a concept. It's called vertical integration. I think the great coach, his name is Francis. He's a sprinting coach. Vertical integration basically just means you have to do everything at all times as much as possible and not specialize and isolate too much, because he saw sprinters using their hamstrings obviously in a certain way, and he focused on, okay, I need to teach them something else because they're sprinting all the time and basically using the hamstrings to produce tension all the time. So that's the same concept here. So you have to do all three jobs at the same time. Programming is about, okay, how much emphasis is on each and every single one of them. That means you can literally skip one of those jobs for a couple of weeks and emphasize on the other two. You can focus on one for 6 to 8 weeks and see where it gets you. That's the vertical integration concept.
And is the idea of the vertical integration applicable as well to like normal people who just want to feel strong, be healthy, as well as to like specific niches of sports? Because in general, I feel like there needs to be some kind of a differentiation between these groups just from a feeling, because kind of like special athletic groups have special demands. And is that concept a solution that works for as you mentioned, the example of the sprinter, as well as for like Sue, who works a normal 9 to 5?
I'm only interested in helping normal people, because if I help normal people, this will automatically transfer for pro athletes as well, because we move the same way. There's no difference in us moving. And I think now it's working the other way around, because we're studying pro athletes, we're studying professional sports, we're imitating them, we're watching videos of people, whatever, snatching, Olympic weightlifting, sprinting, running. And then we're drawing conclusions from like the top 0.1% of people to how normal people should move. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. I think we have to do the other way around. Once we figure out, okay, how does Susie Soccer Mom and Joe Jack Trader needs to train 2 to 3 times a week, and we'll make it work for them, I can easily scale it up and be like, okay, now you don't only have like 2 or 3 hours of training a week, but you have like 20, 25 hours of training a week, which is pro athlete's life. Okay, that's way easier. Like the real hard work is making it work in less amount of time and not more. And I think we just have to reverse that process of not imitating the outliers, the genetic outliers of pro athletes, because that's what they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the top 1% up there. Yes, work ethic and talent, it's all good, but you have to have a certain genetic pool to get up there. Like you can work your ass off. If you're not gifted, you won't make it. I'm sorry. This is not how professional sports work. But to break it down, like I would train a pro athlete exactly the same way, fundamentally, doing the 3 muscle jobs that I just described, as I do with Susie Soccer Mom. And I'm describing in the book with Jonathan. That's what helped him the most. Still is a very good snowboarder. He used to be an Olympic snowboarder. I think that's the principles how we should train people. And if it helps my mom, if it helps Susie Soccer Mom training 2 or 3 hours a week or 30 minutes a week, doesn't matter. It should also help pro athletes. And obviously it's not working the other way around, because if you teach normal people like a barbell back squat, how whatever a professional CrossFit athlete is doing it, or a professional Olympic weightlifting guy is doing it, a Chinese weightlifter is doing it, like you're going to screw up your knees and hips really bad. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay to screw it up, but it's okay for professional sports, but it's not okay for normal people. So to sum it up real quick, if it's not working for normal people with very limited amount of time for training, you should not be doing it in like your gym classes or whatever that is. Just because it's working for professional athletes, or you see it on YouTube, or you see it on Instagram, and I get it. It looks really great. Like it's adorable. But maybe we should start somewhere else with our normal people.
And to backtrack back to the three jobs of the muscle, in your experience now, do you see kind of like a tendency with which of the jobs people have the biggest or the smallest issues?
Yes and no. Because I have to always zoom out of my own gym because we had a huge emphasis on the three big muscles and the hinge, because that I think that's the one thing you have to fix for people is learning how to pick stuff up off the floor, like stuff that fits in between your hands. I think that's fundamental. If you know how to hinge, you know how to squat. In terms of exercises, so if you know how to stabilize your hips, you can really quickly learn how to bring your hips somewhere else. That's squatting. But we're gonna figure this out now because we're gonna place an emphasis on a gym program now, and let's see how long it will take us in comparison to the hinge. Hinge took us, it's pretty realistic, 2-3 years to actually make an impact, so people really understand what we want from them. And let's figure out how long it's going to take us for sending the hips back for squatting, so to speak.
Okay.
Go ahead. So there's no. The question was: is there a specific muscle job that is missing? I would always start with stabilizing stuff. So stabilizing glutes, that's carries. Stabilizing your obliques, that's carries. Stabilizing your lats, that carries. So if you don't know where to start, pick something up that fits in between your hands, whether that's a sandbag or something else. Make it as heavy as possible. Don't go any further than 60 meters because learn how to load your hips for 20, 40, or 60 meters. And you will cover a whole lot that you will, as a normal person, for training 2 or 3 times a week. That's enough. I actually just wrote this in the book today, so I have a roadmap how to get there. The cool thing is, I think normal people should do way less of what they're doing right now in the gym, like way less exercises, way less worrying about reps and weights and schemes and all that kind of stuff, and keep it really simple. Like if you carry stuff twice a week, if you drag some sleds twice a week, if you move stuff in between your hands from the floor up and with your hips back, I think that's all you need to live a healthy life. Twice a week, that's it. That's what the templates are for. To uncomplicate training. And if you have more time, fuck yeah, let's do it. We work for whatever. Actually, I had a great question Friday because we talked about the bone rules, the knee or the end of your big thigh bone staying above your heel, and then we did some sandbag squats at the end. And one very smart member asked, like, but now my knees are coming forward. So is that a rule now or not? Great question. Because if you lower your hips below 90, your knees have to come forward. Like it's just not anatomically possible to do something else. And that's totally fine. So what I want to do is we have to start at a picture perfect place. It's called the sandbag box squat, where your knees stay over your heels to learn how to use your glutes and moving along, what to do with your hamstring. But you have to learn it right once. And then you can move on and be like, all right, what's the next step? Could be, or it is a Sempic squat actually, where your knees come forward at the end. That's no problem if you know what to do with your glutes and with your hamstrings. It is an issue if you don't know what to do and just shooting your knees forward, placing all the tension on your quads, your knees or hips or whatever will bitch at some point. And then the next step afterwards is, okay, now we use that concept for the barbell back squat. I want everyone out there to back squat 250 kilos with your knees coming forward. I'm all for it. I just want to provide a process how to get there and not start at a decompromised position, which could be harmful if you don't know how to create tension in your glutes and your hamstrings. That's all I want to do. I don't want to take away any barbells. I love barbells. But I think it's just simply not necessary for, I would say, 99% of people.
Mm-hmm. What was kind
But
of...
if you fancy, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
But if you fancy setting this as your goal, I'm all for it. I'll educate you. I'll work with you so you get a 200 kilo barbell back squat. It's probably going to take whatever, 3, 5, 10 years. That's totally fine. But the process is more important than the actual goal. If that is your goal, I'm not going to take this away from you. On the contrary, I'm gonna do everything in my power to get you there. The issue is if that's not your goal, but the goal of the facility you're going toward, if that's on the whiteboard, which says, okay, everybody's goal is a 200 kilo back squat, and you don't actually want to have a 200 kilo back squat, but you're still training for it, and then your knees start hurting, and you're like, well, the squat is not good for my knee. And it's like, no, this is not how this works. Glutes and hamstrings are for squatting, not the other way around. The squat is not for glutes and hamstring. This is not an automatic reaction like in, I don't know, in chemistry. If you put two things together, there's a chemical reaction and a third thing is going to happen. No. You have to learn how to use your glutes and hamstring, and this is going to make you a better squat, not the other way around. So I think there's nothing more disheartening than following somebody else's goal that's not yours. I think that's the most inhuman thing you can do. If that's a conscious decision of yours to go for a 200 kilo back squat and you're aware of that process, which I think most people are not, because there is no process to it. It's just grab a barbell, follow that progression and see how it goes. Then I'm all for it. But I don't want to send people unwillingly into something where I know this is not going to work for them. So back to your question.
What was kind of like the feedback from the participants?
Mixed feelings because, and I told them right from the beginning, because I called it mobility workshop. So I think people expected mobility exercises, but I took 5 minutes to explain to them why mobility exercises are really great for recovery and won't do anything for what you're actually looking for, which is either creating more or better positions. It's only covering one of them. I'm not denying the fact that if you do mobility exercises and you immediately test your back squat or just a squat afterwards, you're probably going to feel better or have a better squat position. The issue is you have not taught your body anything about tension. You've just opened up the door to more position for your squat, which is fine, but it just lacks the tension equation. If you go for working on tension, which most of the time is getting rid of tension by either sticking a lacrosse ball somewhere or foam rolling. So you want to get rid of tension to get into a better position. That's opening another door of that I don't want to walk through, by the way, which is I don't even want to think about teaching somebody less tension. If you want to have less tension in muscles that you don't want to use, that's fine. But you don't stick a lacrosse ball there. You just teach a bigger muscle to do the work, so a smaller muscle can start to relax. So maybe there was a little bit of disappointment, but funny tool. I had a bone with me and I taped just a rope to it to symbolize, okay, this is a bone, this is a muscle. the tape is the tendon. So this, if I do this with the bone, okay, the muscle moves. If I do this with a muscle, if I contract it, then the bone moves. So we can have an understanding of position with tension, creates rotation, and this is going to lead to whatever you're looking for, whether that's better mobility, better strength, all the same thing, because these are the only players we have. But I did, of course, I did videos of them afterwards. So we did a before and after video of just the basic squat position. And of course it got better, but I already told him this is not a quick fix. Like, this is the same as doing mobility exercises now. And I gave everyone, well, I'm preparing it right now. I gave everyone the exercise they sucked at the most from those 3 that we did. They get a progression, they get a template, they get a step-by-step plan of, okay, just do this like 5-10 minutes before every class, work on this. Now you know how it should feel. Now you know what you should focus on. And this is all you have to do. And like 95% of them will do 5 to 20 Sempeck box squats before every single class. That's it. Takes them 5 minutes.
And were there any surprises for you in the session, or something where you had a fixed idea on something and the construct is now kind of shaken?
Yeah, there's a positive and a not so positive thing. So the positive thing was I was pleasantly surprised how well people could hinge. And none of them had, yes, they had tight hamstrings or tight hip flexors, but none of them had lower back issues, which is, and the credit goes out to my coaches because they're doing the most work in the classes. That's because they know how to hinge. That's because they know, our people know how to use the glutes when picking something off the floor, swiveling at the hips, using the glutes, and not using the lower backs. That's fantastic. So that was that was a pleasant surprise. Stuff we need to work on is, and I still don't 100% know how to do this, but we're going to start the process, is unfocusing on exercise, because I already gave them an exercise as well, which is Sempeck box squat for most people. But we'll give them the PDFs from the book as well, so they know that it's not about the exercise per se, but like 4 or 5 steps they have to consider, and which is choosing the Sempeck box squat to learn this. Yeah, that was just a learning. We have to do a better job of educating people what we want from them. This means we have to talk about it. We have to give them better materials. We have to teach them in the classes. We have to just widen the spectrum of not only talking about the exercise per se, but what's actually behind it and what's the principle behind it. Because again, I don't think in exercises. I think in muscles moving bones and bones setting up muscles to work. That's all I care about.
These are actually all the questions I have.
Great. But it was so much fun for me to actually be in the weeds again and being nervous before the workshop, don't know how to present it. This was really cool. So obviously I'm going to do a shoulder mobility workshop now in 2 weeks. I have to. So whenever that's finished, we're going to talk about it and see what the learnings from the shoulders were. Curious.
I look forward to it.
All right, guys. Yes, me too. Bring on the questions. We're solving problems here. We're solving problems for normal people. We want to unfocus on exercises. We want to educate you how to get better and be less dependent on other people, whether that's coaches or knowledge, wherever you get that from, and educate you so you can decide on what's right and what's wrong for you, depending on, okay, I tried it, it's working, I just keep doing it, and I think that's why it's working. That's all we want to do. Keep it up the good work. Do the templates. I hope the book's coming out soon. It's only going to take a couple of more years, I guess, um, or weeks or days, who knows?